The year is 70 AD. The city of Jerusalem is burning. Smoke rises from the Temple Mount, thick, black, choking the sky. Thousands scream as Roman soldiers tear through the streets, the sound of steel, fire, and faith dying at once. Inside the temple, flames climb the marble columns. What was once the heart of a nation is now an inferno. But here's the mystery. How did it come to this? How did one of the greatest civilizations of the ancient world, the Roman Empire, find itself turning its legions against a single mountain city? To understand, we have to go back to when the world of Judea was already cracking apart from the inside, and rebellion was only a spark away. Before the fire, before the legions came, there was anger, and it had been building for decades. Rome ruled Judea with an iron hand. Taxes bled the people dry, soldiers patrolled sacred streets, and governors treated the temple like their personal treasury. To the Romans, Judea was just another province. To the Jews, it was holy ground, and it was being defiled. Then came the spark. In the city of Caesarea, Roman mobs massacred Jewish citizens. When word reached Jerusalem, the fury was unstoppable. The people rose up. Rebels stormed the Antonia fortress, killed the Roman garrison, and drove the empire out of the city. For the first time in generations, Judea was free. But that victory came with a price the people didn't yet understand. Because when you humiliate Rome, Rome never forgets, and it never forgives. In Rome, Emperor Nero was furious. He sent one of his most trusted generals, Vespasian, and his son Titus, with legions hardened by years of conquest. Their orders were clear: crush the rebellion, burn the resistance, and make an example so terrifying that no province would ever dare to rise again. The storm was coming, and Jerusalem, proud, defiant, and divided, was standing right in its path. When the legions moved, the earth trembled. 60,000 Roman soldiers, veterans of Gaul, Africa, and Britannia, marched east toward Judea. Behind them came siege engines, catapults, and the ruthless discipline of an empire built on conquest. Vespasian's army swept through Galilee like a storm. City after city fell. Sepphoris surrendered, Jotapata was annihilated, and thousands were crucified as a warning to anyone who thought rebellion could stand against Rome. But the resistance refused to die. Every defeat only drove the survivors south, toward Jerusalem, the beating heart of the revolt. Then, just as the war reached its peak, Emperor Nero died. Rome plunged into chaos. For a brief, fragile moment, it seemed Judea might escape destruction. But fate had other plans. Vespasian was declared emperor, and his son Titus was left to finish the job. And Titus knew exactly what his father expected of him. No more negotiations. No more mercy. Only fire and silence. Jerusalem was next. Before the Romans even reached Jerusalem, the city was already dying. Not from siege, but from itself. Inside the walls, chaos ruled. The rebels who had once fought together against Rome now turned their swords on each other. Factions fought for power, zealots, priests, and warlords, each claiming to defend God's will, while the city bled in the streets. The zealots, led by men like John of Gischala and Simon Bar Giora, saw compromise as betrayal. They executed anyone who spoke of surrender, anyone who even whispered of peace. Priests were slaughtered in the temple itself. Bodies piled up in alleys once filled with prayer. And then came madness. In their fury, the zealots burned the city's own food stores, hoping hunger would force every man, woman, and child to fight Rome to the last breath. But all it did was seal their fate. When Titus finally arrived outside Jerusalem, he didn't find a united enemy. He found a starving city, divided, desperate, and ready to destroy itself. In the spring of 70 AD, the hills around Jerusalem came alive with the sound of marching feet. Titus and his legions had arrived. 4 Roman armies, tens of thousands of men, surrounding a single city. The siege had begun. At first, the Romans attacked the outer walls, hammering them day and night with catapults and rams. But the defenders fought back with fury. Stones, arrows, and boiling oil rained down from the battlements. Every gate became a graveyard. Titus realized brute force wouldn't be enough. So he changed his plan. He ordered his men to build a wall around the entire city, 5 miles long, to trap everyone inside. No food, no water, no escape. The result was slow death. Famine spread like a plague. Mothers watched their children starve. People fought in the streets over scraps of leather or even dust from the grain stores. Inside those walls, humanity itself began to collapse. And still, the rebels refused to surrender. Every night they climbed the ruins and cursed the Romans, swearing God would save his city. But the legions were patient. They had all the time in the world. And with every passing day, Jerusalem's cries grew weaker. The Romans tightened their grip. And soon, the walls would fall. By midsummer, the walls of Jerusalem were broken. The Romans poured into the city like a flood of iron. What began as siege now turned into slaughter. Street by street, they fought their way toward the Temple Mount, the sacred heart of the city, where generations had come to worship, sacrifice, and pray. Now, it was the rebels' final fortress. Titus wanted to spare the temple. Even Rome could sense its holiness. He ordered his men to hold their fire, to capture it intact. But chaos doesn't obey commands. As the fighting raged, a Roman soldier hurled a flaming torch through a window. In an instant, the fire caught. The curtains burned, the gold-plated walls began to melt, and the temple, that shining symbol of 1,000 years of faith, went up in flames. The priests screamed as they tried to save the scrolls. Soldiers fought over treasures as the roof collapsed. The gold ran molten through the stones of the altar. When Titus saw it, he wept, but he could not stop it. The temple was gone. The Holy of Holies, the Ark, the rituals, everything that had defined a nation, reduced to ashes. Josephus wrote that the hill itself seemed to be burning. The flames rose so high they could be seen from miles away, and with them, Jerusalem's last hope disappeared into the smoke. The Romans slaughtered anyone who resisted. They tore down the walls, carried off the survivors in chains, and took the sacred treasures back to Rome, trophies of their vengeance. When the fire finally died, Jerusalem was gone. The temple, the heart of a nation, lay in ruins. Thousands were dead, the rest scattered across the empire. But the story didn't end in the ashes. With no temple, no sacrifices, and no priesthood, the Jewish people rebuilt their faith around prayer, study, and memory. They carried their God not in a building, but within themselves. This was the birth of Rabbinic Judaism, a faith that could survive anywhere. And from those same ruins rose another movement, the followers of Jesus of Nazareth, who saw the temple's fall as a sign of a new covenant. Rome thought it had destroyed a religion. Instead, it had given birth to two. Today, the stones of the temple still lie where they fell. Pilgrims still weep beside them. The city that burned now stands again, a living reminder that no empire, no fire, can erase faith. If you want to explore more forgotten moments that changed our world, subscribe to the channel.